Hi fam, welcome to this episode of Destination Fitness with Carlos, coming again from Thailand in Pattaya. And if you can see behind me there, if you've been here before, you watched a lot of videos, you'll know I'm on Walking Street, the famous Walking Street. Now obviously it's during the day, so it's very different from what it looks like at night. And as you can see, it's not just Walking Street during the day. Cars come down here during the day, so it's a lot of traffic. And it's a little bit annoying because there's not much space for you to walk, so you've got to be very careful. But this episode today, guys, is very important. It's a lot of information that I'm giving you based on questions that I've had from people contacting me on the channel, basically asking about how I got a visa to stay here for so long. So what I'll do is I'm going to discuss that with you. I'm going to walk down Walking Street while we're talking about it, keeping an eye on the traffic coming behind me. Well, it's just stopped all of a sudden. And obviously they're doing a lot of work during the day, but you'll see some of the sites as I'm walking side to side that you probably recognize on videos and if you've been here before. But what we'll do, guys, I'm going to speak to you about how the visas work here and what you need to do, and a little bit of story how I ended up here in Thailand and in Pattaya in general for the past year. So let's get started. Okay fam, so look, I'll start from the beginning, which is the best place to start as always, which is how I ended up here in Thailand. So just to give you as brief as I can the story of how I ended up in Thailand, I actually had no interest to come to Thailand. What basically happened back in 2020, I had plans to go to the US. I had an agent set up to do some work based on my fitness that I do, and I was already set to leave, and it was going to be mid-2020. Signed a contract and everything with an agent. I was going to go to US, was going to travel around Dominican Republic, a few different places, Caribbean, that area. What happened, as we all know, we had a major event in the world that stopped everything, which threw all my plans out of place. So basically I went back working, doing what I was doing before, but obviously for 2 years everything was shut down, as you know, so everything got thrown out the window. When things reopened back up last year, which is 2022, what I basically did, put my plans back in place. I was going to go back to do what I was going to do. I was going to travel around America, to the Caribbean, Colombia, and basically everyone who knows me knows that that was my plan. I was telling everybody about it. I think I may have even discussed it on some of my social media, and I was going to put all that in place. This is when things just reopened back in 2022, around April or so. Anyway, what I did, I looked at all the costs of traveling to do what I was going to do, and the costs were astronomical at the time. I didn't realize when things reopened, I just assumed everything was going to go back to normal, but far from it. It ended up being very, very expensive, so I just couldn't do it. The trip that I wanted to do was going to be out 3 weeks. I was going to take some time off work. It was going to cost me about 4,500 Australian dollars just for the flights alone for my trip, which was going to be United States, Dominican Republic, Caribbean, and Colombia, and then come back. And I was going to stop and speak to some people regarding some business that I wanted to do there as well with my social media. So when all that happened, it threw all my plans out the window. I had to basically book, because I was working in the fitness industry, as a lot of you know. Because I was working, I had to book time off for my vacation. I had done that already, thinking that I was going to do all this stuff in America, Caribbean, and all that kind of thing. And what basically happened is I had to go because I had booked my time off, couldn't change it, so I had to look around to see where else I could go. And when I looked around, the cheapest place, as this guy's flying by me, the cheapest place was Thailand. And like I said, I had no intention to come to Thailand or Asia whatsoever. So when I did my sums and looked at my budgets and everything else, I saw that Thailand was the best place to go. Looked around for where can I travel to in Thailand. To give you a bit of an idea of how little I knew of where I was going to go, I actually booked Pattaya, and this was in June last year for 3 weeks. I booked Pattaya thinking that I was going to Patong. And what I basically did When I went to actually book my trips and everything that I was going to do, I was looking at Patong, where I'm staying, and then I realized, oh damn, I've actually booked the hotel in Pattaya, not Patong. Because again, I know nothing about Asia, nothing about Thailand, had never been to Thailand ever until June last year, 2022. So when I realized I was in Pattaya, I thought, oh, let me book my trips and everything else for Pattaya. This was while I was in Australia, before I even got here. So basically what happened after I arrived here in June last year, 3 weeks, Pattaya, things had just reopened here as well. It was still relatively quiet, but it was getting busier. But what I basically did was traveled around a little bit for the 3 weeks, made some friends, talked to some people, and actually fell in love with Thailand itself. Well, especially Pattaya at that time, as a tourist, if you like. But I really loved the fact that it was a good standard of living, the fact that things weren't expensive, also the people, the most beautiful people in the world, I've got to tell you. Thai people, the most beautiful people in the world. Lovely people, no one hassling me out. I felt so comfortable, felt so safe. I was staying in Pratamnak for the 3 weeks. Had to get the motor taxi, no one ripped me off. Well, not as far as I know. But basically, I pretty much fell in love with the place. And I thought, wow, this is a place I could take a year out and spend a year out from work and work on my social media and building my channel and everything else, which is basically what my plan was to do in the Caribbean. And I looked into it. I started doing some research while I was here, which is the best thing to do. Do it while you're in the place that you're going to. So while I was here, did some research, looked into the costs of staying here long term, worked out the cost of living, food, the whole lot, looked at rentals and all this sort of thing, looked at places to even buy because it was so cheap. I was just flabbergasted at how cheap things were when you convert the Australian dollar into the baht. And basically, like I said, I fell in love with the place, and I basically made a decision that when I got back to Australia, I'm going to come back and stay long term, and this is the place that I could do it. And the other beauty with it was from Australia, it's only a 7-hour flight to Thailand, especially from the east coast of Australia, which is where I'm from, in Sydney. From the west coast, it's even closer. But basically, 7-hour flight, not far from the family. Things go wrong, things don't work out, I'm not happy with it. Like I said, it was the first time I'm coming for a long period of time. At least I could go back pretty easy. It's only a 7-hour flight. So that is how I ended up in Thailand. Basically, it was a complete fluke. I had no intention of coming here, no interest in coming here. My interest was all about the Caribbean and America. That's what I was going to be doing to build my social media. So that's the little story of how I ended up here, firstly. And now what we're going to do is speak about the actual visa process and what I did to get my visa. Okay fam, hopefully you're enjoying what walking street looks like during the day. As you can hear, there's always work going on with these places. They're always fixing them up, renovating them. But it looks very different to the night time when it's all lit up. But it's still quite nice, it's a little bit quieter, and that's why I'm doing the video down here. But now let's get on to the visa. What I wanted to discuss with the visa itself, and what I'll try to explain, is this is specifically for my purposes. So it's not going to work for everybody because there's a little bit of criteria around getting the visa that I got. So I'll explain that to you. And also I'll give you some facts, because there are a lot of myths and a lot of things that people that stay here tell you about what you can and can't do for, especially the type of visa that I've got. And a lot of it is incorrect. And I don't know if it's because they're here and they try to do it here, but the visa that I got was done through the correct manners, the correct channels, and I'll explain all that in a sec. But basically, there are a lot of myths about the visas into staying here and what you can and can't do here. So I'm going to break that down for you as well, just so that you're aware, because don't listen to everything you hear online and when you're talking to people, because I've spoken to a lot of people and they actually give you the wrong information, and not only wrong information, they actually don't know in reality. Now, just to give you a little brief, that was Walking Street. We just went through the whole of Walking Street. So now I'm heading towards Bali Hype Pier, which is down here, and that's where you get your boats to Koh Larn and your tours and all this sort of thing. So we're heading down there at the moment. But now let's get on to the actual visa that I got. Okay fam, so I'm here at Pattaya's Bali Hype Pier, and you would have seen this before on some of my episodes where I went to Koh Larn. That's where you get it from. And as you can see, there's boats all over the harbour here. and this is Walking Street, is behind those buildings there. So that's the back of the buildings actually for Walking Street, and from Walking Street you can go into those restaurants, or most of them, that are actually on the water there, which is really, really nice. But anyway guys, so this is Bali Hype here. So what I'm going to do is actually give you information about my visa, how I got it, and then afterwards I'm going to talk to you some myths about the visas itself. So basically, when I got back to Australia after coming to Thailand in July of last year, I went in June, came back in July, it was a 3-week vacation. I basically decided that, you know what, I really want to look into Thailand properly. I did more research when I came back to Australia, and basically looked into a lot of things. I had some friends here, I met some people here who helped me out as well. And I basically decided, yep, I'm going to go to Thailand. I looked into even places to purchase, all that kind of stuff, because it was such, like I said, I fell in love with it that much on my first visit, and I didn't even have any intention to come to Asia or Thailand. So that was something in itself. So act of God maybe, I don't know. But basically what I did, I looked into coming for long term. I realized that unless I want to keep traveling in and out, it's going to be difficult. Now, I am over 50 years of age, as most of you should know by now, and because I'm over 50, I qualify in Thailand for the retirement visa, being over 50 years of age. So I looked into that and thought, okay, I can get a 1-year retirement visa because I'm over 50, which is great. So when I looked into the process, and when I say when I looked into it, I didn't ask people about it, I actually looked into it properly on the actual Thai embassy website of Australia. Now, this will be the same advice that I would give to anybody who's thinking of getting a long-term visa. Look at the embassy's website in the country you're in. It won't be that much different to what I had to do. And the reason I say that is because if you listen to people, especially people that are here, they tell you things that are incorrect all the time. They just tell you what they've been told by somebody else, and sometimes by agents who, I can tell you now, aren't giving you the right info, or aren't giving you the info that you can get in your own country, which works out cheaper to getting a visa to come here. So I got the retirement visa, which is called an AO visa. And when I looked into it, I could get a multi-entry, which means I could come in and out of Thailand in the year that I'm here as many times as I like. Or I could get a single entry, which means the date I come in and the date I leave, I leave. And the cost of those, the single entry was $150 and the multi-entry is 300 Australian dollars. That is it for the visa. Now, there are some requirements and criteria to get the visa. And this is where some people make the mistake of not looking into things properly. And the beauty of it is all on the website. So if you go into the embassy's website in whatever country you're in, it actually gives you all the information that you need. So all that I needed to get my visa was to show my Australian bank account. Now, the only thing which I will say about this, I can't recall off the top of my head whether I had to have $25,000 for 6 months in my account or $50,000 for 6 months. It was one of the two. And I couldn't remember. I tried to look for it before I came to do the video, and I couldn't recall. And I think it was $25,000. It was either 25 or 50,000. But I fortunately have those funds in my account for quite some time. So if you've got that for the 6 months, you just got to send your statements in with your application. You also need to make sure your passport's up to date, which is pretty obvious. And the other thing that you needed, and this is all off the actual embassy's website, and they give you all the paperwork as well. They give you paperwork that needs to be completed by your doctor, which basically just states that you don't have certain illnesses, or you've never had certain illnesses that are stated on there. And there was about 5 or 6 illnesses, and I can't recall exactly what they were, but they weren't anything serious. So if you're in pretty good health, which I am, thank God, the doctor just signs that off, and it doesn't cost you a thing for the doctor to sign that off. The other thing that you needed was a police check. Obviously, you're coming to a country for a year, it makes sense. The police check, they want to make sure that you haven't got criminals coming in, which Thailand is known for. You have all types of, and I've seen them all types of con men, scam artists, people that have done things in their country and on the run. All types of deviants that are here, to be honest. So I've seen all of them here, but it makes sense. So I had to get the police check done in Australia and send that as well. And the police check, I think from memory, it cost about 50 Australian dollars. It wasn't even that expensive. And literally, that was it. That was it, guys. That was all you needed. One more thing that you needed was insurance. Now, what I would say to anybody coming to any country, if you're traveling, you're going to be staying there for a year, I would suggest you get your insurance out. And it was basically a full travel insurance, and it had to be a Thai company that provide the insurance, and they even give you the list of Thai companies. And I looked at the list, I managed to get the insurance. There was certain cover that they tell you that you need, and the insurance alone cost me about, I think it was 800 Australian dollars. It was the most expensive part of the application process. It was about 800 Australian dollars. However, I didn't mind because that covers literally everything, and I think I even took from memory a higher cover to make sure it was covered just in case anything happens here. And that is one thing you've got to be careful of, guys. If you do travel, if you get hurt here in Thailand, you have to pay before they even look at you. You have to pay the costs. Even if you have an accident, you've got to pay the other person. It works very differently to how it works in your own country. So you've got to bear that in mind. Insurance is so important. Now, I know a lot of people come and say, I don't care, I'm not going to worry about insurance. Trust me, in a place like Thailand, specifically Pattaya, where people are riding bikes when they're drunk, when driving around when they're drunk, drinking is a big thing here, you've got to be very careful. So, like I said, I would recommend it no matter what country you went to, not only Thailand, anywhere that you go. So I got my insurance. So all up, $300 for my multi-entry visa, $900 for my insurance, or $800, something like that, $1,200 all up. And basically, you send all that in a package. You have to basically email it all to the embassy, which was in Sydney, all the paperwork together with your money that you paid. Oh, you needed some passport photos as well, which wasn't a big thing, stuck to your application. And that was basically it. That is the extent of what you need to do for your visa, or to get your visa. And then obviously there's a little wait. They've got to get the visa sorted out. I think it was a 3-week turnaround for me. The only issue which I didn't like was they stamped the visa from the date that I applied instead of the date that they gave it to me. So I lost 3 weeks of my 1 year because of the time it took. And then by the time I booked my flight to come, I lost almost 1 month of the year just on the visa process. So that was something that was a little bit annoying to begin with. But basically that's how it is. So you can't do much about that. But that is literally the process of getting it's called the AO retirement visa. Now again, I'm saying this in terms of how it works for me. And many people that come here, you'll see you've got more over 50s, 60s and 70s in Pattaya than you've got of any other age group from overseas. So most people, that will work for them. But one other thing that I would suggest is there's other visa types that you can get. You can learn the language. You get a visa to learn the language here. The only thing is, if you're trying to be a dodgy and think you're just going to get a visa for learning the language, saying, yeah, I want to learn, you have to actually have paid the school, shown your application and all this sort of thing. And that's from first-hand experience. I know someone who's done this. However, if you think you're just going to do that and you're not going to go to the school and you're just going to enjoy yourself in Thailand for the 1 year, don't think that that's the case, because they take your passport away. And the reason the passport's expensive is important is because anything you wish to, if you want to travel around, you want to book a hotel, you want to hire a car, they're going to ask for your passport. And if you haven't got one, they're not going to give it to you, either a room or anything. So it's not as easy as you think if you're genuine about learning the language, or if that's another area, way you want to get in. That's something that you can do. And that's if you're under 50 and if you're wanting to come, or if you're over 50 and you can't qualify because you don't get the criteria for the retirement visa, that's another way you can get in. And there is a few other visas. There's even one to learn Muay Thai. So if you want to learn Muay Thai, there's a visa for that, where you can get a visa. Now I don't know the criteria for that. I don't know anybody who's actually done that one. But I do know the education visa one to learn the language. I know a few people that have done that. But like I said, in terms of the visa process, it's very straightforward. Don't listen to people that live here, or a lot of them, I'm telling you now, don't know the process if you do it from your own country. And it's not that difficult, guys. A few people have said, oh, it's too much of a hassle, I'll just do it here in Thailand. Don't think that. They give you all the information, it's step by step. And if you haven't got all the information, there's even a checklist that you've got to tick off to send back to them. So it's all there. It's very, very simple, very, very straightforward. So that's how I ended up getting my visa, guys. And that's why I'm here for the full year. I've gone back to Sydney once, but I could go in and out as often as I like with no issues because I've got the multi-entry visa. So that's the way you get your visa, guys. Just go online, go on your country's Thai embassy website, and I'm pretty sure most countries will have similar to what we have in Australia in regards to the criteria. It won't be that much different because they're not going to make Sydney, for example, needing $50,000 in your account, and the UK needing £100,000, for example. They're going to be pretty much equivalent, I would imagine. But anyway, guys, so that's how I got the visa. Now, what I'm going to do is give you some information about the myths of the visas that people have told me here, which are incorrect. So I've given you the correct process, the official correct process of getting your retirement visa to stay here for a year. And that is the official way you do it, guys. It's not like some dodgy sort of way, and I'm going to give you some information about what people do here in Thailand, which is not correct and is a bit dodgy, but if it works for them, good on them. But if you want to be safe and just say, look, I don't want no hassle if anything goes wrong, that's the way you do it. Just go on your country's website, the embassy, Thai embassy in your country, their website, and they'll give you all the information there. But anyway, guys, let me discuss the other thing as I'm walking back towards Walking Street. Now, the other good thing about the reason I'm doing the video from here, it's been raining here in Pattaya for about 4 days. I haven't seen the sun at all. It's just coming out now. And now I'm dying of heat. But it's been raining 4 days. There's been some bad weather in Vietnam, so that weather's sort of moved across here. So it's nice to be out in some sunshine, to be honest, and just to get out without getting soaked. It's been pouring rain for 4 days. So anyway, guys, like I said, now we'll get on and talk about the myths about the visa that people have here. Right, folks, I'm just in one of the side streets off Walking Street. As most of you would know, this is, I love the side streets in Thailand, the little laneways. There's always something happening in them. But anyway, just to give you some more info in reference to some of the myths that I hear a lot from people when they talk about these visas. One question they always get asked from people that are here in Thailand, and some have been here in Thailand for years, they all say to me, oh, how did you get your visa? You need 800,000 baht in your bank account in order to get your visa. And I had to explain to them that that's not true. And these are people that have been here for years. They all say to me, oh, you need 800,000 baht and you have to have the Thai bank account. Unfortunately, what a lot of them are talking about is how you have to get a visa when you are here in Thailand. So if you apply from your country, common sense, there's no way you're going to be able to have a Thai bank account if you live in another country. And you can't just open up bank accounts in different countries. You know, it doesn't work like that. So the big myth that a lot of people have is because they apply from here in Thailand and they talk to people that apply here in Thailand, they assume that you have to have a bank account. So you don't need to have a Thai bank account. Now, I opened a Thai bank account when I got here. However, even to open my Thai bank account, I had to show my passport, which has my visa in my passport, my 1-year retirement visa. I had to also show them my agreement where I live, that it's all been signed and that I'm the one who lives there and I'm the one who pays the mortgage and rent and all this sort of thing. So you have to have all that before they give you a visa. Before they give you a bank account here in Thailand. Now, what a lot of people do, they go through an agent who does things in a very different way. They just basically open up all these accounts for you through people that they know, which is great. That's why they're agents. But the issue with that is, for me personally, sorry if it's a bit loud. Like I said, sorry, I'm filming myself. Like I said, when you're here in Walking Street, there's always work going on, so it is a bit loud. But like I was saying, what happens with a lot of people, they just listen to other people and they don't realize that if you apply in your country, you don't have to pay all these extra costs. The agents charge just as much as it costs you to apply from your country for your visa. And on top of that, what I've found with a lot of them, the way they open your accounts, for example, they will go into a bank. I mean, and look, that's what the agent's for. They got to know people. They got their ways around getting away around certain rules and regulations. But they will open your account for you and put money into your account and then take it out. Everyone does that. And these are people that I know who have done this themselves because they're literally confused how I managed to get my visa without having to do all that. And then when I basically spoke to them, and then we realised, okay, it's because you're doing it here in Thailand through an agent. And obviously the agent gets a little kickback, which makes sense. Fair enough, they're doing the work for you from all these people. So they put the money into your account, they take it out. But it's not done properly. There's basically not the right way to do it. Now, the only issue with that is, from my perspective, is if you are getting insurance, and again, a lot of these accounts that they open for you, apparently they come with insurance. This is what people tell me that have done it. But the only thing is, does it cover you for everything that you need to be covered for? As applying through the embassy will cover you. And this is what you've got to be careful of, because one thing that if you've dealt with insurance, anybody who's dealt with insurance will know that for insurance purposes, something happens to you, any reason they need not to pay you, they will find it. And if they find that you've got your visa by doing things incorrectly, that it wasn't your account, someone's put money in, taken it out, you never had 800,000 baht in your account, then what you'll find is that you'll get into a bit of issue and you may not get your payouts. So just bear that in mind. So that's one main thing which I found here. And a lot of the people, they do the visa runs who can't get the visa. So they will go to Cambodia, they'll go to Laos, and they'll do their visa runs in and out. And also you've got to pay for that as well. So doing your visa the right way is probably the best way and the cheapest way, as far as I'm concerned, to do it, and the safest way, because you know everything's been done correctly with the embassy. Doing it the other ways, look, people do it all the time here. I know many people that do it. They don't care, they just say, oh look, you've never had any issue, everyone does it, which is fine, but if something does go wrong, I think you will find a different mentality to that, because things could be a little bit different. But like I said, at the end of the day, that's one of the myths. You don't need a Thai bank account in order to get your visa to stay here, if you do it the correct way in your country. And doing it through the agent, like I said, once again, it will cost you just as much, if not more, than applying in your country. One other thing that people said to me is, oh, you've got to go and sign on with immigration to let them know where you are every few months. Again, when you do it through overseas, you don't need to do that. I've been back overseas, I've come back, I've never signed on anywhere to tell anybody where I am. I've got my signed paperwork of where I'm living. That was all done through getting my visa. I've gone in and out of the country, never had any issue. The ones that say, oh, you got to go in and out, you got to pay each time, every 3 months, to pay somebody to say this is where I am. I've reported saying I'm here. Why are you paying that extra money? You're paying it because you've done it here through the agencies and things like that. If you do it the right way, you don't need to do all that. There's a lot of extra stuff that people are doing that they don't need to do. So, and I'm saying this to people because, like I said, I've spoken to so many people and they don't realise, and because they think it's just too hard, or they think, oh, you know, I won't get it if I apply through the embassies, that it's like, oh, you know, it's too much hard work. The one thing that I will say though is, if you don't have the right funds and you can't qualify, for example, the funds that you need in your account in order to get your visa, then I understand people doing it another way. But one thing that I would say is, if you're coming to another country, the reason they ask you if you've got those funds in your account is for a reason. You've got to support yourself. Because what I've found here, a lot of people come to Thailand, to Pattaya, thinking, oh, it's very cheap, which it is, but they live a lifestyle in excess. They're at the bar all the time, they're drinking all the time. That all adds up. They're out all the time talking to, you know, trying to pick up girls and paying for girls and all this sort of stuff. It all adds up. So when you're doing that, all of a sudden, you need money. And what I find is, a lot of people, they end up going back to their country, leaving their girlfriends behind to end up finding another guy and doing all stuff like that. And what they end up doing is having to go back because they run out of money. So the reason they ask you to have a certain amount of funds in your account is for your benefit. Like I said, I've done my research. I wouldn't come here if I wasn't able to support myself for the time that I'm here. There's nothing worse than having to go back to your country, go to work for another few months, then come back again, just because you didn't have the funds in the first place, but you got your visa stamped by somebody who you paid, just to show, oh yeah, at least I got my stamp there. So they're little things that you've got to think about. And the insurance, again, like I said, very important. Check your insurance, because if it doesn't cover you for major incidents, which can happen here in Thailand, I'm telling you, I live here, I watch the news here, nearly every week someone, foreigner, dies on the, you just see there behind me, nearly gets run over, but they don't know how to ride these motos properly. They hire these motos, dead every week, somebody dies here, and not just in Pattaya, all over the place where the foreigners are. And it's almost every week. Look online and you'll see yourself. So little things like that. And if you're not covered properly, you'll find that your family's got to look after all those costs. So they're also reasons why you want to do things properly if you can. And if you can't qualify through the correct channels, then obviously, yes, have a look at all these agents, have a look at doing it the dodgy way. But like I said, there's consequences to that as well. But like I said, guys, that's how you get your visa. Very simple, straightforward process. And once again, I would recommend to people, do your homework before you come. Even a place like Thailand that seems very cheap, do your homework. Make sure you can support yourself. Make sure you can stay. Make sure you know what you're doing, or else you could find that you're going to go back home after a few months and all your money's gone on ladies or on drink. And you won't even get a chance to enjoy Thailand like I've done properly without making the right plans. So do that, guys, and remember, my lifestyle change consultations takes all this into account. I've been through the process, I know how it works, so this is why I've got the consultations as well, so that you know what you need to do and you don't end up getting stuck and being disappointed and having to go back home. So anyway guys, that's it for the visas. And what I'll do is I'll finish off soon. I'll throw in some little workouts afterwards as well. And again, walking street during the day. Very different to night time. Okay fam, so today's health and wellness tip that goes on the video with the visa is basically my 3 favorite exercises for your shoulders. And the reason I love these exercises is because basically you can do them anywhere, any gym, anytime, because these exercises don't necessarily require the equipment that you have at the big gyms. So what you see with this particular gym here and the exercise that I did for the shoulders today, just dumbbells, cable, and dumbbells again. Very simple. And most gyms, even the smaller ones, will have at least dumbbells and a cable machine. So this is my 3 favorite shoulder exercises that you can do anywhere, guys, and I hope you enjoy that.